In the quiet of the pasture, a curious sound broke the stillness. It was a soft whimper, almost like a lost puppy. Ember, a spirited chestnut horse, raised her head. What could it be? With her ears perked up, she trotted towards the source of the sound. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the grass as she approached a weathered cardboard box tucked beneath a scraggly bush. A strange feeling washed over her. Was something alive inside? Gingerly, Ember nudged the box with her nose. The whimpering grew louder, more desperate. "What are you?" she seemed to ask, her heart racing with a mix of fear and curiosity. With a gentle push, the box creaked open, revealing a tiny figure wrapped in a thin blanket. Ember's eyes widened. There lay a newborn baby, a boy with a face so small and fragile. He was alone. A moment of shock washed over Ember, but it was quickly replaced by a wave of tenderness. She leaned closer, her warm breath brushing against the child. "What have you been through?" she seemed to whisper, as if they shared a secret only they could understand. The baby stirred, and for a fleeting moment, their eyes met. In that instant, Ember felt an overwhelming urge to protect him, a bond forming in ways she could not comprehend. He was so fragile, so innocent. As the sun dipped below the horizon, an eerie stillness enveloped the pasture. Shadows danced around them, and Ember's instincts kicked in. She had to keep the baby safe. Outside the comforting embrace of the pasture, dangers lurked. Would anyone come looking for him? What if no one did? Ember's heart pounded with concern. She stepped closer, wrapping her body around the baby, shielding him from the cool evening air. Suddenly, the world outside felt vast and threatening. The sounds of rustling leaves and distant calls echoed, sending shivers down her spine. Ember nuzzled the baby gently, her heart swelling with a fierce protectiveness. "You are not alone anymore," she seemed to promise, her warm body providing a shield against the unknown. She could feel the rhythm of her heartbeat matching the soft breaths of the child nestled beside her. With each passing moment, Ember knew that her life had changed forever. She had found something precious, and her heart was now entwined with this tiny creature. What would happen if someone found him? Would they understand the bond they shared? As dusk settled, Ember remained vigilant, her eyes scanning the pasture for any signs of danger. She felt a strange mix of fear and determination. This little life depended on her now, and she would do everything in her power to protect him. As the stars began to twinkle in the vast sky, Ember felt a spark of hope. Could love grow in the most unexpected places? Would this fragile bond be enough to withstand the challenges ahead? The night held many questions, but one thing was clear. Ember was ready to face whatever lay beyond the pasture for the sake of the baby who now held her heart. Days passed in the peaceful pasture, and Ember grew deeply attached to the tiny baby named Silas. She took her role as his guardian very seriously. Each day, she made sure Silas felt the warmth of her body and the gentle rhythm of her heartbeat. Whenever he cried, Ember would nuzzle him softly, her breath providing a calming presence. The cries that once filled the air began to fade, replaced by a quiet contentment that settled over them. The pasture transformed into a safe haven, a sanctuary for both of them, where time seemed to stand still. As Silas thrived under Ember's care, word of the abandoned child began to spread through the local community. Whispers of concern filled the air, reaching the ears of a social worker named Juniper. She had dedicated her life to helping children in need, and the news of a baby left alone in a cardboard box tugged at her heart. Intrigued and worried, she decided to visit the pasture. When Juniper arrived, she was taken aback by the sight before her. There was Ember, the spirited chestnut horse, gently nudging the baby with her nose. Silas giggled, reaching out to touch Ember's soft fur, his tiny fingers grasping at the warmth of her body. The scene was nothing short of extraordinary. Juniper felt a mix of emotions as she observed the bond that had formed between them. It was a connection that seemed to transcend the ordinary, a love that blossomed in the most unexpected of places. As she stood at the edge of the pasture, Juniper felt torn. She understood her duty as a social worker, but the sight of Ember and Silas together stirred something deep within her. She could see how much comfort the horse provided to the child. Silas smiled every time Ember nuzzled him, his laughter echoing in the quiet of the pasture. The bond was undeniable, and so pure that it left Juniper questioning her next steps. Every evening, as the sun set and the stars emerged in the sky, Juniper watched from a distance. She saw Ember and Silas share tender moments, their connection deepening under the twinkling lights above. It was in those quiet moments that Juniper reflected on her own childhood. She thought about the meaning of family and love, and how sometimes those connections come in the most surprising forms. The community soon rallied around the idea of keeping Ember and Silas together. People began to share their thoughts and stories, expressing their support for this unlikely duo. They saw the healing power of their bond, and it created a ripple of hope in the small town. Juniper found herself encouraged by the voices of the community, who understood that love could take many shapes. As days turned into weeks, the bond between Ember and Silas only grew stronger. They were no longer just a horse and a baby. They had become a family in their own right. And with each moment spent together, the pasture became a place of healing, love, and understanding. Juniper could not help but feel inspired by what she witnessed. She knew that this journey was just beginning, and she was determined to figure out how to protect the bond that had formed between them. Juniper felt a heavy weight on her shoulders as she faced the difficult decision of whether or not to separate Silas from Ember. Every day, she saw the deep bond that had formed between the spirited chestnut horse and the tiny baby. It was a bond that seemed to bring them both comfort and joy, but Juniper knew that her job was to ensure Silas's safety and well-being, and that might mean taking him away from the only family he had known. Each night, Juniper would stand at the edge of the pasture, watching as Ember and Silas shared quiet moments under the stars. Silas would giggle as Ember playfully nudged him, and Ember would gently nuzzle him, as if to say, "I will always protect you." Juniper felt a mix of admiration and sadness as she observed their connection. It was clear that Silas found comfort in Ember's presence, and Ember seemed to understand Silas's needs in a way that was almost magical. As she watched them, Juniper's mind drifted back to her own childhood. She remembered the warmth of her family and the love that surrounded her, but she also thought about the times when her family had struggled, and how important it was to find comfort in unexpected places. The memories made her question what family truly meant. Was it only defined by blood, or could it also be formed by the bonds of love and trust, like the one between Ember and Silas? The whispers in the community grew louder, and people began to express their support for keeping Ember and Silas together. They saw how happy Silas was with Ember, and how much joy the horse brought to his life. Stories of their bond reached every corner of Willow Creek, sparking conversations about love, family, and the power of connection. The community came together, united by the belief that some relationships should not be broken. Juniper felt encouraged by the support around her. She realized that she wasn't alone in her feelings. The townspeople understood the importance of what was happening in the pasture. They believed that Silas and Ember's bond could be a source of healing, not just for them but for others in need. This gave her hope, but it also made her dilemma more complicated. She had to balance her responsibility as a social worker with the wishes of the community and her own growing attachment to the pair. With each passing day, the relationship between Ember and Silas continued to deepen. Juniper knew that whatever decision she made would have a lasting impact on both their lives. She felt a strong sense of duty to protect Silas, but she also saw how much he thrived in Ember's care. The pasture had transformed into a place of love, safety, and understanding. It was a sanctuary that brought joy to both the horse and the baby. As Juniper reflected on her choices, she understood that this was not just about her job, it was about the lives of Ember and Silas, and the love that had blossomed between them. She had to make a decision that honored their connection, while still ensuring Silas's future was bright. The moral dilemma weighed heavily on her heart, but she knew she had to find a way to support the bond that had changed them both. Juniper stood before the townspeople, her heart racing as she prepared to share her idea. Inspired by the strong bond between Ember and Silas, she believed there was a chance to create something special. What if we start a program that allows Ember and Silas to stay together? A therapy program that can help other abandoned children as well? She proposed, her voice steady but filled with hope. The room fell silent as everyone processed her words. Some looked at each other with surprise, while others began to nod thoughtfully. Juniper could feel the energy shift. She explained how Ember's presence brought comfort to Silas and how their bond could be a source of healing for others who faced similar struggles. We can create a safe space for children to connect with animals, just like Silas has connected with Ember. It could change lives, she said passionately. As Juniper spoke, whispers of agreement started to spread through the crowd. People began to share their own stories of how animals had helped them heal. An elderly man raised his hand, recalling the horse he had as a child that had given him strength during tough times. A mother spoke up, sharing how her daughter found joy and comfort in their family dog after a difficult loss. Each story added to the growing sense of unity in the room. Despite the enthusiasm, some members of the community were hesitant. They worried about the risks involved, and whether this unconventional idea would truly benefit Silas and other children. Juniper listened carefully to their concerns, acknowledging the importance of safety and well-being. "I understand your worries," she said, "but we have the chance to do something amazing. We can help children feel loved and understood, just like Silas does with Ember." As the discussion continued, Juniper felt a spark of hope. The community began to rally around her proposal, passionately advocating for the idea. People shared their thoughts on how the program could be structured, suggesting ways to ensure safety and support for both children and animals. The energy in the room shifted from doubt to excitement, and Juniper could see the possibility of real change taking shape. Finally, after much discussion, a vote was called. The townspeople raised their hands, and Juniper held her breath as she counted. The majority voted in favor of the new therapy program. Cheers erupted in the room, and Juniper felt a wave of relief wash over her. Ember and Silas would not be separated. Instead, they would become symbols of hope and resilience in Willow Creek. As the meeting concluded, Juniper felt a rush of gratitude for the community's support. She realized that this was not just about keeping Ember and Silas together. It was about creating a new path for healing and connection among children in need. Juniper left the meeting with a renewed sense of purpose, excited to see how their journey would unfold and how many lives would be touched by the love between Ember and Silas. The bond they shared would not only change their lives but also inspire others to believe in the power of connection and compassion. As Silas grew, he began to understand animals in a way that amazed everyone around him. His bond with Ember, the spirited chestnut horse, played a big part in this. Silas spent countless hours with Ember in the pasture, learning how to read her moods and feelings. He noticed when she was happy, when she was tired, and when she needed a little extra love. Ember, in turn, responded to him with gentle nuzzles and soft whinnies, making him feel special and understood. The therapy program, which Juniper had proposed, blossomed in the coming months. Children from different backgrounds came to Willow Creek to meet Ember and Silas. They learned about empathy and kindness through their experiences with the horse. Each child brought their own story, their own pains, and their own hopes. With Ember as the bridge, Silas helped them find comfort and healing. At first, some children were shy or scared to approach Ember, but Silas, with his gentle spirit, encouraged them. He would say, "Ember is friendly. She just wants to be loved, like we all do." Slowly, the children began to open up. They learned to brush Ember's coat, feed her treats, and even ride her with the help of Juniper and other caregivers. The laughter and joy in the pasture grew louder. It became a safe space, filled with love and acceptance. With each passing day, Silas's kindness began to shine even brighter. He would often sit with children who felt alone or sad, listening to their stories. He shared his own journey, telling them how Ember had saved him and become his family. His words inspired others to embrace their feelings and be brave. They learned that it was okay to be vulnerable and that they were not alone in their struggles. Ember also found a new sense of purpose. She loved being around the children and could sense their emotions. When a child cried, Ember would gently nuzzle them, offering comfort. When a child laughed, she would prance around, sharing in their joy. The connection between Ember and the children created a powerful atmosphere of healing. As Silas continued to grow, he became more involved in the therapy program. He helped organize activities and even led storytelling sessions, where he shared tales of bravery and friendship. Silas taught the children how to care for animals and how to express their emotions. He emphasized the importance of kindness, not just to animals but to each other. Through this journey, Silas learned about himself. He discovered the strength of his own heart and the impact he could have on others. The lessons he learned from Ember guided him in every interaction. He became known in the community, not just as the boy who was saved by a horse, but as a young leader who brought hope and healing to many. The pasture, once a quiet place, transformed into a lively center of growth and love. Every child who left carried a piece of Ember and Silas with them. They took the lessons of empathy and connection into the world, inspired to make a difference in their own lives and the lives of others. In this way, both Silas and Ember healed together. The bond they shared grew stronger, teaching them that love can change lives, and that even the smallest gestures can create a ripple of hope. As they continued their journey, they became symbols of resilience, showing everyone that healing is possible with the right connection. As time went on, the bond between Ember and Silas deepened, evolving into a family-like relationship. Silas viewed Ember not just as a horse, but as his beloved companion and protector. They shared a unique understanding, one that transcended words. Silas often spoke to Ember about his dreams and fears, and she listened with her soft, warm presence. In these moments, Silas felt a sense of belonging that he had never known before. As Silas matured, he began to realize the importance of his story. He understood that he was not alone in his struggles as an abandoned child. Inspired by his connection with Ember, he decided to advocate for other abandoned children, sharing his journey with anyone who would listen. He visited schools, community centers, and local events, telling people how Ember had given him hope and love. His passion ignited a spark in others, encouraging them to support children in need. The impact of their relationship reached far beyond Willow Creek. News of Ember and Silas spread, capturing the attention of local media. Reporters came to the pasture, eager to tell their story. They wrote about the extraordinary bond between a boy and a horse, highlighting the healing power of love and connection. Silas and Ember became symbols of resilience, inspiring others to believe in the possibility of change. In the community, more families began to recognize the importance of animal-assisted therapy. People started to understand how animals could help heal emotional wounds. Silas often spoke at town meetings, sharing his vision of creating a safe space for all children, where they could learn and grow alongside animals like Ember. The support from the community grew stronger, and they rallied around Silas's mission. Together, Ember and Silas organized events that brought the community together. They held open days at the pasture, inviting families to experience the joy of being with animals. Children laughed and played with Ember, and Silas watched with pride as new friendships blossomed. He saw how these connections helped others find their voices and express their feelings. It was a beautiful sight to behold. Through their shared journey, Silas and Ember taught the world that love knows no boundaries. They showed that unexpected bonds could change lives in profound ways. Silas learned that he had the power to make a difference, and he embraced this role wholeheartedly. He encouraged others to be kind, to listen, and to be there for those who needed support. Ember became a beloved figure in the community, adored not only for her gentle nature, but also for the hope she inspired. Many people came to see her as a healing force, and Silas proudly shared her story. They both became known as advocates for love and compassion, reminding everyone that even in the darkest times, there is light to be found. As Silas looked back on their journey, he felt grateful for the bond he shared with Ember. Together they had built a new family, one that was rooted in love, understanding, and support. Silas knew that their story was just beginning, and he was excited to see how their connection would continue to impact the world around them. Years later, Silas stood in the pasture, watching the sun set behind the hills. He reflected on his life and the incredible journey he had taken with Ember. The spirited chestnut horse had not only saved him, but also shaped him into the person he was today. Silas felt a wave of gratitude wash over him as he remembered the first day he met Ember, the moment he was nudged awake by her gentle touch. Their bond had changed everything. Ember was older now, her coat slightly faded but her spirit still bright. She stood by Silas, her warm presence offering comfort as it always had. Silas leaned against her, feeling the familiar rhythm of her heartbeat. It was a sound that brought him peace, reminding him that he was never alone. Ember had been his protector, his friend, and now she was his family. Together, they began to think about how they could help other children who were like Silas once was alone and in need of love. They wanted to create a foundation that would unite children in need with animals, just like Ember had done for Silas. The idea excited him. Silas knew that if he could help even one child find the same comfort he had, it would be worth it. Silas and Ember worked tirelessly to plan the foundation. They met with community leaders and shared their vision. Silas spoke passionately about how animals could heal hearts and minds. He told stories of the joy he felt when he was with Ember, and how he wanted other children to experience that same love. The community listened, and they were inspired. People wanted to help. As they gathered support, Silas and Ember organized events to raise awareness. They held workshops where children could interact with animals, learning how to care for them and connect with them. Silas watched as smiles spread across the faces of children who had once felt lost. He saw them laugh and play with Ember, and he felt a warmth in his heart. He knew they were making a difference. The foundation grew quickly. Families from all over Willow Creek joined in, eager to share their stories and support the cause. Silas felt proud as he looked around at the community coming together. They were building something beautiful, a place where love and healing could flourish. As Ember aged, Silas made sure she received the best care. He knew how important she was to him and to all the children they were helping. He often took her on walks through the pasture, letting her graze freely while he shared his dreams for the future. Together, they imagined a world where every child could find comfort in an animal companion. The bond between Silas and Ember became a powerful symbol of hope. Their story was shared across the town and even in the news. People wanted to know how a boy and a horse had changed each other's lives. Silas spoke openly about their journey, encouraging others to believe in the magic of unexpected connections. Years passed, and Silas continued to advocate for children everywhere. He traveled to schools and events, spreading the message of love, compassion, and the healing power of animals. Ember was always by his side, a gentle reminder of the strength they shared. As Silas reflected on their journey, he realized that their legacy was not just about them. It was about every child and animal that found each other in a world that sometimes felt overwhelming. Together, Ember and Silas had created something beautiful, a lasting impact that would continue to grow. They had shown the world that love knows no boundaries and that kindness can change lives. Share this story if you believe that love can conquer even the toughest challenges. Leave a comment about how an unexpected connection has changed your life, and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one.